You're one of the first brands that started that in the country,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yours was the first brand that had everything on the front of the label, so people didn't have to, squint and look and, oh, it's too small, forget it, pass it on, which is a marketing gimmick I've learned of now.
Marketers are so smart. They have turned even this thing into a trick. So now today you will find brands which declare ingredients on the front of pack, but they're not all. But you get the feeling
That
it's all.
Wow.
On the back you will find 3 others. So they will say made with ragi, jowar, almond, cocoa, whey. And you're like, great, that means these are the 5 things. But when you turn the pack, there are 4 more. You can't disprove it. You take them to court, they're like, yeah, it is made with these 5 also. We were not only the first, I would say, even today we might be the only brand which declares each and every ingredient on the front of pack. They will find at the back. And when you turn to the back, we in fact go to the extent of declaring the exact percentage of each ingredient, which is effectively our recipe, which is supposed to be a trade secret. Like, we're like, why?
Yeah.
If you want to copy it, if you want to make it at home, please go ahead and make it. I'm telling you, exact percentages adding up to 100%. Like, we make the label, and this is not a regulatory mandate. FSSAI doesn't mandate telling percentage of each ingredient. We do it because they're like, the consumer should know, if I'm saying this is whey protein, how much of it is isolate, how much of it is concentrate.
Right.
You should know.
Is there a price to pay for this honesty and integrity in terms of your top line or your bottom line?
100%. Our gross margins are far lower than our competitors,
Right.
for example, because our ingredients are super expensive. And while we charge up for it, we are also an expensive brand. But cost of ingredients is, let's say, 50-60% higher than the next guy. But I charge only 20-30% higher than the next guy. So 20-30% of that I absorb. So there are very real implications. So gross margin is lower than the next guy. Shelf life is lower than the next guy. Like, I sell bars which are 5 months of shelf life. My competition has 12 to 18 months of shelf life, right? So that means that the amount of returns that I get from market, because we are not able to predict demand precisely, right? So sometimes it's too much, sometimes it's too less. So if you have 12 months of shelf life, you can stock up in trade a lot more. I can't do that, right? And every day we live with the decision that if I put 1 drop of preservative, suddenly the shelf life will go up from 5 months to 15 months, right? That changes the business materially. Like, I get 3 to 4% of top line as returns back from the trade, which I have to then destroy. Because when in food, once it comes back, it's not usable.
Has there ever been a point in your journey where raising funding has put you into a position where your investors want you to change parts of the product, or you know how it is, right?
Honestly, it's never happened to me, but my situation might be unique in 2 ways also. One, my investors, because I come from a FMCG background, I am actually the expert in the room, and investors see that. Even the, investors who are 15-20 years in the trade, they feel that they know better. In my case, actually, they don't feel that they know much better. And honestly, the company, Touchwood, we've been rewarded with so much demand from consumers. We've grown so well that faith has grown over time that whatever you guys are doing seems to be working. I think it's a combination of these 2 things that I've honestly never faced any. The third thing which I would also say is, if you raise institutional money, we've raised from like Cacao Capital, the world's top VC, etc. These guys have been in the business for 100 years. So they are very clear that the founder runs the business. If financially the bet is not making sense, they will just exit.
That's amazing. So then we're left to face the bitter, ugly truth that founders who are doing non-ethical work, it's not for profit and greed,
It's not from anyone's pressure.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure no one can pressure a founder to do the wrong thing. It's your company. Like, even after you raise VC money, you are by and far the largest shareholder.
So you decide what?
You decide, 100%.
So it comes down to ethics. What about batch testing? Okay. I'm aware you test every batch.
Yes.
What happens when a batch is bad?
Batch testing needs to happen at 2 places. First, all the raw material needs to be tested. Everything that's coming in. And that's not mandated by the regulator. The regulator just says, test the finished goods. And that too at a frequency of like once in 6 months or once in, right? So, and that's fine by the regulator also, because honestly, testing is expensive. So not everyone can do all the testing, right? So we built our own in-house lab first to test all the incoming raw material because that needs to be done in real time. Every day trucks are getting unloaded which are carrying cashews and walnuts and almonds and cocoa. So that all of that can't first be sent to an external lab and then brought in. So we have our own in-house lab. All the raw material first gets tested for. There is visual inspection for any contaminants, then there is pH inspection, there is moisture level, like all the tech specs that we've decided for each, all parameters that we've decided for each RM first gets tested, because in our case, if you're going to use only 5 to 6 natural ingredients and not process them too much, quality of ingredient will decide quality of
Finished.
good, right? That's level 1 testing. Then, even then, there are times when you test your FG, your finished good, and you find something is off. For example, maybe the roasting profile on the nuts this time wasn't under control and hence the nut went rancid. The oil inside the nut went rancid and you couldn't catch it in the process, but you can tell it in the end product, right? On any safety parameter, for example, some metal piece was found, there's an X-ray machine that catches, there's a metal detector that catches any metal piece, there is an X-ray machine that catches any stone or any plastic, etc. If any of these are found, reject, like don't even think about it. Even on any rancidity or any acidity parameters, any pH parameters, if something is wrong with the batch first gets fully removed from the line and then each pack gets checked in the batch if anything is salvageable or not. Anything is not salvageable, again gets discarded. Whatever is salvageable gets reopened, again goes through the entire cycle of production and then checked again at FG whether this time it came out right or not. If yes, then goes ahead. If not, then gets discarded. That's the full process, and this is then done for every batch.
You know, I want to go back to the cocoa, the cacao, because I mean, there's a lot of lead found in sources across the world and stuff like that. How are you all managing that problem to ensure that the end users, you know, are well within the permissible levels?
You have to check RM.
And are you all finding a lot of batches which are messed up raw material wise? Because people are saying like the crops are changed.
20% batches, yes.
It is, huh?
20% rejections happen.
Yeah.
And it's actually much lower for us. I think we've just been lucky, or maybe the scale is not that large that it's impacting us this much. At a much larger scale, I'm sure the incidence will go up even more.
Yeah.
And usme bhi there's a difference, like we buy a lot of Indian beans also. Indian beans actually till now have been better.
I heard they're cleaner than most of the international sources.
Yeah. So Indian beans may the incidence of lead has been negligible.
Super, that's amazing.
I don't know how long that stays, but yeah.
What I really like, especially in my field of, you know, my field of medicine and dealing with patients who are immunocompromised, cancer, etc. And I wanted to ask you, when it comes to all of your batches, if any consumer from across the country says, "Hey, Shashank, I want to see your heavy metal testing on this batch," would your company be willing to share it?
It's public. It's already there on our website. You can go to the page, just punch in your batch number, which is on the pack, and download the report and see it.
Fantastic. That's a good to know.
Nothing
that gives us a lot of confidence as well.